What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk Podcast. And if you don't know, guys, I am Colin Burnett.
And I'm Norman Lee. That's right, guys. We have one heck of a show tonight, Colin, and we've been looking forward to this show for quite some time now. Our guest we have coming on tonight is just insane, guys. But anyway, we got some business to take care of first. Let's talk about our sponsor for tonight's episode. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Spear Point Performance Hooks. Hooks proven and tested to put more fish in your boat. Using their proven V-grip technology, hooks that will perfectly present lures and provide the most but our guest, you can probably see him right now on the right hand side of your television screen. Our guest has been a professional bass angler for 11 years. He is the first Bassmaster College angler to qualify for the Elite Series and won the 2012 Elite Rookie of the Year with 7 Bassmaster Classic qualifications, as well as finishing in the top 10 an astonishing 20 times, coming off a Super 6 in this year's Bassmaster Classic, Mr. Brandon Card.
Thank you, Brandon, for coming, man.
What's up, man?
I can't. We can't hear you.
Lost your audio, Brandon.
Let's see.
Is it on your end or his end, Colin?
Let's see.
If you hear us, Brandon, we still lost your audio.
Says. Can you hear? Can you hear us, Brandon?
Yeah, he could hear
We
us.
can't hear you. I don't know what in the world. All right, guys. Sorry about this. Let's see. It was just working fine just a second ago. It's just not picking him up, Norman.
I wonder if it's on our end.
No, it don't look like it. Oh me, because it's showing on my end that it's wide open.
All right. Is there something he might need to try to do on his end?
Um, hey Brandon, can you try to like to get off and then come back? I'm going to try. Well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if I remove you from the scene and then add. Can you hear me?
He could hear us. We can't hear him.
We still can't hear you. All right, I'm gonna. Can you try logging back in, Brandon, real quick, and we'll just chit chat for a second until you come back.
All
All
right.
right, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know. It was working perfectly right before we came on, but guys, I mean, you see that we got Brandon Card coming on. It is going to be one heck of an episode. We enjoy talking to Brandon, and we've been able to talk to him here the past two. Uh, there it is. All right, we can hear you. I'm going to add you to real quick, and then everybody else will be able to hear you. So, guys, if you didn't know, this is Brandon Card. so, but yeah. So, guys, like what I was saying, we've been fortunate enough to be able to meet and talked to Brandon here the past two classics, and so we thoroughly enjoyed talking to him. Uh, we ended up talking to him here at Media Day this past classic, and uh, one thing that I really enjoy though with Brandon is how open he is about his faith and how God has really helped him in his life period and in his career. Am I correct? Brandon was saying that.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I try to live every day to honor the Lord, and I feel like professional bass fishing has just kind of given me a platform
Yeah.
to just tell others about my faith in Jesus Christ.
Right, and I mean, because you have it on your jersey and stuff like that, to where I mean, before people even come up and see you, I mean, they see it on your jersey, and so and then you're out there and how you're acting and all that. People can just see and how you talk and stuff to people. People can see that in yourself, and I want to tell you and that I mean I thoroughly enjoy that. I mean because I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for the good Lord and which you probably have some stories too as well to kind of go along with that. Um, just with life and everything that goes on. And I mean, he has really blessed us, and we know that he's blessed you, and especially, I mean, you got some blessing here this past classic with being in that Super Six.
Yeah, yeah, that was awesome. That was the that was the second time that I was able to be a part of the Super Six. So hopefully, in the near future, here in a year or so, I'll be hoisting that classic trophy. That would be pretty cool. It'd be
Ah,
a dream come true for sure. But yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that, Colin, about your faith in the Lord. And God, Jesus used fishermen. As his disciples, a lot of his disciples were fishermen,
yeah.
and I feel like he's still using fishermen to this day. And I feel like as a fisherman, it takes a lot of faith.
Oh
Especially
yeah.
doing what we're doing out here, fishing professionally. I mean, you have to have a lot of faith, and so that may be why Jesus has used fishermen, throughout.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, there's lots of just really good people in the fishing world, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
Oh yeah. And well, and I'm kind of glad that you said that about Jesus and stuff, using fishermen and stuff, and then talking about like your faith, because like how I talk to people about like because I'll tell them all the time that like fishermen is Jesus' favorite people because I mean, with his disciples and stuff, and but I tell them I was like faith it's like I mean it's because people want to be able to see like everything now is like they can see it or they can touch it and stuff like that, and faith in God and stuff is not it's not a visual thing to where you can't see him, you can see what he does. And so when I talk to him about like I kind of try to bring it into like the fishing aspect of it is like when we're out fishing, I mean, we can see a little bit about what's out around us and stuff, but we're throwing out there, and it's almost like we're having that blind faith that that fish is right there, and that's how you get your faith is with God. Is like it's a blind faith that that if I do what God is asking me to do, then I have that faith, that He's going to provide. He's going to do everything that He can um, to where I'm, I mean, because the Bible tells us that He wants us to live life and life more abundantly, and and that doesn't mean that every one of us is going to be multi-millionaires or anything like that, but I mean, but and then just every day, uh, that there's just something that I see that God has done. It kind of it just proves to me, like, that he's always telling me, like, hey, I'm right here with you. I mean, and then it's like being able to go and do all the stuff like with bass that we've done, and uh, to be able to meet the anglers and stuff like yourself. I mean, he's like, I know that you want to do something in the fishing industry, and he's been able uh, to help me to be able to meet guys like you and be able to have you come on our podcast and be able to talk. And that's one thing that we want to be able to show people, that it's not all about fishing. It is about being able to share your faith and be able to where people can understand, even if they might not believe in God, to where they see, well, Brandon Card he believes in God, and he has that relationship with God. What is it exactly that has him to get that faith? And so um, that's what I strive for, is to be able to where I can be that difference. That where people can, once they see me, they know something is different with that man, and they want to ask questions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I feel like just the joy, as Christians, we should all just be like super joyful, and if we're a Christian and we're not, then we need to change how we act,
reevaluate
because
things.
yeah, we have so much to be joyful about, thankful for. And so just that joy for life, it's kind of that intangible thing,
Right.
that people should notice about Christians, and
Yeah.
Yes.
and that's what they should see and kind of be drawn towards. So yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. Just people will just know as soon as they meet you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they can tell that difference.
Yeah.
And so, well, Brandon, let's talk real quick. How did you get started into fishing? Was it through bass fishing, or was it like, cause most of us got started out just going out with our dads or their grandparents or something like that, and we just went out like bluegill fishing. And how did you get your start into fishing?
Yeah, that's actually kind of how I got my start. Was bluegill fishing with my dad, and really my mom some too. She came some, and then my grandfather took my brother and I. My brother's like 2 years older than me, and he just eat up with fishing too. But yeah, basically, just my dad was really good at just letting us catch fish. Whether it was bluegill, shell cracker, small bass. We grew up on Norse Lake there in East Tennessee, and we just always were reeling in something, and I feel like that's what really got my brother and I just super all about fishing, and that's all we wanted to do.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, that we some of my fondest memories of my childhood was just going out fishing in our little 14-foot boat, just my dad, my brother, and I. Just man, those were the good old days.
Now, growing up as a kid, did you have anybody that was in the sport, or did you follow professional bass fishing as a kid and kind of know about it, know that you could actually make a living doing it? And was there anybody that was actually in the sport that kind of you looked up to, wanted to kind of pattern your fishing, you know, career that was still to come after?
Yeah, so my dad's not a tournament fisherman. He's probably fished in like 30 tournaments his whole life. But yeah, I would say somewhere around 7 or 8. My brother and I started to get into watching the fish, and
So, guys, they're actually driving. And so, if you could see, he was in his car, and it looked like the service kind of went in and out. So, we'll get him back on here. in a second. There he
There
is.
he is.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just saying when I was 7 or 8, my brother and I really got into watching fishing, and so we started watching the Bassmasters on TV, and we just thought it was like the coolest thing ever that guys were able to make money catching bass. And so basically, from that point on, for probably 7 or 8, I had a dream to fish professionally. So I'm 37 now, so that was about 30 years ago.
Now, how old were you when you first thought that, man, I could probably, make this as a career?
I mean, I don't know if you ever like, have the. I mean, it's kind of like you have the dream that you want to do it, but you don't really know if you could do it until you try it,
Yeah.
And so I got really fortunate my first year fishing the Bassmaster Opens, and the schedule just lined up perfectly for me, and I was able to qualify that first year,
Right.
and that was definitely a surprise. I thought it was going to take me like a while to qualify, so it was just kind of a blessing from the Lord that I was able to qualify that first
Yeah,
year.
that's awesome.
Now, how did it feel like when you, because you were the first collegiate angler to qualify for the elites? How did it feel like when you was actually told that and you actually accomplished that? I mean, was it something that kind of caught you off by surprise, or were you like I knew that I had this?
Yeah, I mean, I can just think back to that, to one of the Bassmaster College National Championships in Little Rock, Arkansas. We were fishing. We were either fishing the Arkansas River or Lake Maumelle, and Jerry McInnes got up there on our. We had like a pre-tournament dinner registration deal, and Jerry got up there and he was speaking to the whole group of college anglers, and there was several hundred of us sitting there eating our meal, and he was speaking, and he said one day there's going to be a college angler on the Elite Series, and he said that day's coming soon, and it may be one of you guys in this room, and I feel like when he said that, it probably gave all of us in the room chills, because that was like the dream of all of us.
Right.
And it was just kind of wild that I was that guy that he was talking about. Definitely very very humbling for sure.
Yes.
Right. So, when let's because this you've been in 7 different classics, and is there? Do you still get the butterflies that you got in the first one, as you did here this past couple of weeks, or probably about a month ago now, that in Tulsa, or have you kind of been able to kind of compress all that down to be able to start to where, all right, it's showtime and let's rock and roll?
Yeah, I feel like the first couple, there's so much involved with the week of the classic, that a lot of times guys just kind of get overwhelmed by it, and maybe not necessarily knowing that it's going on, but you wound up fishing too fast. You like kind of let those jitters get to you, and that's exactly what happened to me. I know for a fact in the first one, and it probably happened to me on the second one as well. But yeah, I feel like now that I've done it, several different times. Obviously, this is my seventh one now. I feel way more focused than I've ever been. Like at this past one, I was super focused, and honestly, I didn't do everything that I could have done. Like there's all these different appearances, and you can do this for this sponsor and that for that sponsor, and really, if you say yes to all of it, like you just will not hardly sleep the whole week. So
Right.
you kind of almost have to learn how to say no to a lot of those invites, and it's a bummer that you can't, but you simply just can't, and you
Right.
have to you have to focus on fishing, because at the end of the day, those the sponsors, would love to see you at that dinner, and
Ah.
I feel like there's a fine line there, where you have to focus on the fishing, but then you also have to do all the other stuff too. So
Right.
Yeah,
this year, I would say I was the most focused on fishing than I've probably ever been in a classic.
yeah. Now
Right.
they say the thing you want to do, and you hear this all the time about like the Super Bowl and the Bassmaster Classic's no different. Try to keep the week as normal as you can, like a regular seasoned event. But anybody that knows anything about the Bassmaster Classic knows that's virtually almost impossible because of everything that goes on with being at the Bassmaster Classic and being qualified for it. But how easy, or I should say, how hard is it to try to keep things as normal as possible? Like you just said, everybody's trying to pull you from every direction to do, media events, and you got to face it, it's quite a bit different than a regular season event. So being in your first versus your seventh, do you find it a lot easier to kind of keep it a little bit more normal? I should say similar to a regular season event, even though we all know that's pretty much impossible to do.
Yeah, I feel like the classics where you don't have to drive a ton. It's a lot easier to do that. So, like for instance,
Knoxville.
the classic last year at Knoxville, there was hardly any driving. Everything was right there. The ramp was right by the arena, so it was just a perfect setup. And that week, yeah, I was able to really keep it very similar to a normal regular season event. At Tulsa, it's a 90-minute drive each way.
That yeah, that was brutal.
So
Yeah,
that's you lose 3 hours of your day, and so that really just kind of comes off of your sleep, because you still have to do everything. You still have to work on your tackle when you get back. Still have to go to the weigh in and all that good stuff. So yeah, Tulsa was really tough because I was essentially getting 3 hours less sleep per night than I would have like at the Knoxville Classic.
Right. Now, how with like in Tulsa, with it being a 90-minute trip there and 90-minute back, um, so on your way back, and you have a live well full of fish. So how does Bass take care of those fish to make sure? I mean, because when y'all pulled them suckers out of the live wells, them things were kicking and everything like that. I mean, they were very lively bass that they were in there. So how does Bass keep them? Because we know that that's a big part of them is trying to make sure that they go back as healthy as, if not in better shape than what y'all pulled them out of.
Yeah, I mean, we essentially just run our recirculate just constant, and we add a little bit of ice, and just before we put it on the trailer, we make sure that the live wells are full. And one good thing about Vexus is that Vexus has two different options. They have a normal level on your live well, and then they have like a full level. And like if you just basically it's like a little knob you turn. If you turn the knob to full, it will literally fill the live wells all the way up to the top, and basically it takes the air out of the live well, so there's not really slosh.
Right.
Like fish slosh around when there's air, but when you literally fill it up to the top, and there's like a plexiglass lid with a seal.
Right.
When you fill the lava up to the top like that, there's not much slosh, so those fish can ride ride on the interstate all the way down, and be in tip top shape when you get there. And then after you weigh them in, then they put them back in their tanks, in
Yeah,
their
they have
live.
a big old tank.
Yeah, they have several live release boats with these huge tanks, and I think at the classic they have maybe like two of them, and they're just these huge pontoons with these like really big tanks, and they have oxygen tanks and everything pumping into the water. and then they'll actually turn around after the weigh-in, go straight back to the lake, back to Grand Lake, and turn those fish loose. So they're doing all that really late at night, essentially,
Right.
turning those fish back.
So, I want to know, like, with being on in the Super Six, like, what was the baits and the techniques that you used to be able to set you up to get into that Super Six? Because I know that Yo-Zuri jerk bait has, I mean, my opinion would have played a big deal in how it fished.
Yeah, I tell you, I really tried to get on a jerk bait bite because I love throwing that jerk bait, and I caught some fish on it in practice, but I really couldn't get the big ones going on it. I
Mm.
think out of the 15 bass I weighed in, only 2 came on a jerk bait.
Really?
Most of the fish that I weighed in came on a crankbait. I was throwing
Wow.
several different crankbaits. I threw that new that 3DRX flat crank from Yo-Zuri some. Also threw a wooden crankbait that dived about 6 to 7 foot deep. But yeah, basically for me, it was mostly a crankbait bite for me.
Yeah.
Ah,
Now,
awesome.
was when you got into the tournament, like day one of the tournament, Brandon, was it any different, or did things change from your last day of practice as far as how you found them during practice? Did things change? Conditions change? Did you have to change up any, or was it pretty much the same as you were doing in practice to catch them during the tournament?
Well, I struggled the first 3 days of practice, but the final official day of practice, I caught them pretty good, and so that at least kind of gave me some hope and some general areas to really hunker down in. And so everything was kind of going according to plan day one. Well, actually, day one I brought in I think I brought in like 13 pounds, but I really jumped around and fished maybe too much water that day. And so after that, after day one and weighing in 13, I thought, man, I really moved around too much. I need to hunker down in my best area.
Right.
And so that's exactly what I did day two. I hunkered down in my best area and just literally rode it out all day long, and brought in the biggest bag of the day that day. And so that basically took me from like 30 something place all the way to fourth. And so basically I was pretty pumped up about day three. The only thing that threw me a curveball on day three, which I kind of knew it was coming, and I thought I had practiced for it, was that real strong south wind that we had.
Yeah, that was
Well,
brutal.
I guess it was a southeast, yeah, southeast wind, and it was like probably 30-mile-per-hour winds.
Yeah.
And so half of my areas pretty much got trashed, but the other half of my areas were fishable. And it was just the other. I figured that the half that was fishable still would have been good, to bring in another big bag.
Yeah.
But it was just different that day. I don't know what the deal was, but I just could not get it going, and I really fished slow and thorough. I didn't spin out or nothing. I feel like I fished a good day of fishing. I just did not get the big bites that day.
Right.
Right. Now, my opinion, personal opinion, I would love for the Classic, in which we know that it's going to come back to Knoxville. But I've gone to 4 different Classics, and Knoxville by far is my favorite. Not the fact that it was only an hour and a half from the house, but I did like how everything was within like a 10-15 minute drive. You could get to everything. But next time that it comes to Knoxville, I would love to see Brandon Card host up that Ray Scott Trophy, just because having that East Tennessee boy raising up that Ray Scott Trophy would be phenomenal. Just to have a local guy just take it home.
Yeah, man, that would be a dream come true to get it done in Knoxville. That happened to my buddy Yacht Defoe. When he got his classic win there in
Yeah.
Knoxville. So, yeah, I mean I can't think of a better place to win the Bassmaster Classic than Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah, that
The only thing that would make it better is if we were able to fish Norse Lake. That would make it that
that
much better.
Yeah, that kind of leads me into the question I was going to ask you next, Brandon. Is how much time? I mean, with your off season and all, I know you got a little bit of time, maybe not a lot, but how much time do you actually get to spend on Norris fishing your home lake?
Well, that's the lake that I learned how to fish, and I grew up there, and I fished it, my whole life. But I actually live in Salisbury, North Carolina now. We moved over here about 3.5 years ago. Uh, just really to get closer to my wife's family, and so basically my home lake now is High Rock Lake
right.
here in North Carolina. So yeah, to answer your question, I don't get to fish on North hardly ever. Like literally, I'm lucky if I fish it like once a year or something.
Yeah.
Right. Now, a question from one of our viewers is: You've been at it for 12 years now. What are the biggest changes that you have seen?
Forward facing sonar.
That is that is one of the biggest things that's going on.
Yeah, that's the biggest change. Is that, and then I mean, I guess to go along with it is like the youth movement
That
of
is, it's
fish.
been crazy, hasn't it?
I mean, these young guys, whether they competed in college or whether they're like Trey McKinney and they just skip college altogether, uh, and just basically start fishing the Elite Series when they're 18. I mean, these guys are so good, and I think what makes them probably more effective and just ready to win events at such a young age versus when I was young and when a lot of us was young is that they're so in tune with the live scope that they don't have many days where they're just out there scratching their head,
Right.
like
Well, they
like
grew up with it. I mean, to
yeah,
where
and so every day that they're out there, which they get to fish a heck of a lot more than somebody like me that has a family. But every day that they're out there fishing, whether they're fishing on their home lake or whether they're pre-fishing for one of our events, every day is just super effective because they're able to look at bass and see their movement and see what they're doing and really formulate a game plan versus before live scope, we were just guessing. Like I would show up to a new body of water. Like for instance, the first time I saw Toledo Bend, that place is 180,000 acres. I mean, a boy from Tennessee going down there for the first time, you're just like, well, where the heck do I start? And so you just kind
yeah,
of you just kind of start fishing around, and you're just like just trying to get a feel for the place. And there was tons. I mean, I'm not even kidding you. Like countless days where I was just kind of like, man, like I didn't hardly catch any today. And so I feel like now with the forward facing sonar, those guys can put as much time and effort into it as we used to, except they're just that much more efficient. They don't
right.
they don't have those days where they're just like, man, I didn't even catch a bass today on Toledo Bend. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, and one
Yeah,
one of the things we see also about a lot of the younger anglers, like especially like just talking about a rookie class this year with like Trey McKinney, they're so well spoken. I mean, you could listen to
Yeah,
if you weren't looking at Trey on video and seeing how young he, I mean, he actually looks like he's about 15 years old if you look at him. But if you weren't looking at him and just listening to the audio on Trey McKinney, he sounds like he's a 10-year veteran. Just the way he comes across with the camera, and I think a lot of that has to do with the social media aspect of it, because a lot of these kids today that's coming up into through the ranks of professional bass fishing, with social media and stuff like that, having their own YouTube channels, they've actually been behind a camera, so they're a lot more adept and schooled than like yourself or even myself and Colin is at this point behind a camera, just because they've been doing it since they've been 11 or 12 years old. So they're just kind of so well spoken. I mean, Trey sounds like, just to listen to him talk, man, especially when the pressure's on. I mean, he sounds like a 12-year veteran when he's talking on camera.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was thinking the same thing. I was trying to think back to when I was 18. Of course, I guess he's 19 now. He turned 19 a month or so ago.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, dang, like he is leaps and bounds, like farther along than I was when I was his age. And heck, I mean, he's better on camera than I am right now, and I'm 37. I mean, he's really entertaining, and yeah, like he acts like he's just another day, like it's no big deal.
Yeah. So what is a goal that you have in fishing that you before you hang them up is like my goal is to do whatever. What is your goal in fishing?
Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of a hard question. Really, more than anything, the overall goal is just to really enjoy every day and just to have fun. Have fun out there on the water. Just really don't take any of this for granted. That's probably like the overall goal. Now, obviously, I would. I really want to win the Bassmaster Classic. I really want to win a regular elite event. I want to win the Angler of the Year. Those are all just like I would say those are normal goals of any
Right.
elite series competitor. And I'm a very competitive person, so I mean those are definitely goals of mine. But I feel like when I first got into the sport, I was way too focused on chasing titles and not as focused on just enjoying the experience and just having fun and just really I feel like I put way too much pressure on myself the first several years. This is actually my 13th season, and I would say it took me probably 6 or 7 seasons to like figure out like, hey, like you're taking this way too serious, and
Yeah.
it's like hindering your performance on the water. Like when you're like super nervous. I mean, I wouldn't say nervous, but like when you're just like when you're trying too hard. Like when you try too hard at something, that's really not. It doesn't work very good. Like when you just let things happen on the water, when you're
Right.
having fun, you're just
Just
living in the
fish.
moment.
Yeah.
You're just fishing. You make better decisions, and you just do better in tournaments. And I would say the same thing, really about a lot of things in life. Whether it's competitive sports or just anything really. It's like if you're just like way too serious about it and you're just like trying too hard, a lot of times that backfires. And
Right.
and you know, we were talking about some of those rookies. Some of those rookies nowadays. I'm thinking of one in particular, Tyler Williams. I don't know if y'all had a chance to
Yeah.
talk to him.
I just texted him here earlier today trying to get
Okay.
him on. So
Yeah. Tyler. So if you meet him, I think he's like in his early 20s. Like that guy is just having a ball. Like
oh
like
yeah.
he literally is just having the time of his life. He laughs all the time, and like he's just killing it. Like he's literally just like doing so good on the water. He's really. I mean, heck, he's been in contention in a couple of events already this
Already,
year,
yeah.
and he won an Open last year. And so that's I mean that's the personality that you really need to like try to be like if you want to be a professional fisherman.
Yeah.
Just have fun, just laugh, have fun, just enjoy your day on the water, and good things happen.
Yeah, just don't do like what he does when it's blast off and it's like 30 degrees and he's wearing sandals.
Yeah,
So,
he's either barefoot or he wears those sandals. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So, what another question from one of the viewers is what is your favorite state to fish in a tournament?
I would say Texas. I've had lots of just really good events in Texas, and I feel like every time I go down there, I catch some big fish, and it's just a fun place. And I mean the state's so big, and there's so many good fisheries. Probably one of my favorites is Falcon Lake. That's on the Mexico border,
Right.
and Bassmaster doesn't take us down there anymore. I guess due to safety reasons, or maybe just the local community. They might not have enough funds to be able to put an event on like that. But yeah, Falcon Lake, Lake Fork, Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn. I mean, like the list goes on and on. There's just so many.
Well, there's so many lakes there, and in which the Classic next year is going to be right smack in the middle of them. So
yeah. Ray Roberts. I hope I get another crack at that lake. We fished that summertime Classic there, and it was right after a flood, and it was kind of funky conditions. But I think a springtime event on Ray Roberts is going to be pretty epic.
Oh yeah. So I just like to see, because about the time there, I mean, it could be very easily that the Century Belt gets broke in the Classic down there next year. I would think.
I mean, maybe.
That'd be hard to do in a 3-day tournament.
That would be really
well. That's
hard
true.
to do.
That's true. Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true.
But I mean, I think somebody almost did the Century Club. Actually, Keith Combs. I'm pretty sure Keith Combs got the Century Club in one of those Toyota Texas Bass Classics on Fort. I'm pretty sure. I think he had like 100 and something pounds for 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely doable down there in Texas. I mean, there's giant fish that live down there.
Yeah.
Another question was talking about the crankbaits there in the Classic that you were throwing. Were the fish suspended, or was it a? Let's see. On the crankbait that you were throwing, were they suspending or floating?
No, they were floating crankbaits.
Yeah. So,
just really, what I was doing, trying to get away from these mosquitoes out here and start walking around. What I was doing with that crankbait was I was like slow crawling it, like literally fishing the crankbait, like probably slower than I've ever fished a crankbait, and I was just like essentially counting the rocks like that I was coming over, and it was an interesting deal. Like those fish would not hit it hard at all. Like
Right.
I would just be like slow cranking that crankbait, and then it would just be mushy.
Right.
And it was just like the softest crankbait bites you could ever imagine. So it was a different bite than a normal springtime crankbait bite for sure.
Right. So, how do you balance like professional fishing career with just the everyday life of what's going on with your wife and kids and just life in general?
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's hard to balance it all. It really is. I feel like some of the guys that their wives, kind of work with them, and the wives kind of serve as a manager, if you will, and like help with the social media and with the sponsors and stuff. I feel like some of those guys may be able to balance it a little bit easier because they get to kind of focus on fishing a little bit more.
Right.
But that's not the case for me. My wife has a really job, and she works a full-time job, and so really all the fish stuff just kind of falls on me. So the media report.
I knew that was going to go. There he comes. Maybe.
He's trying.
Yeah. So he's in Salisbury, North Carolina, and so he may be coming. There he is.
There he is.
Did I lose you?
Yeah,
Yeah, for a second.
Did I lose you?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
Are
I
you
was just
good?
talking away. I thought it was all good. What what did y'all hear?
Well, the last thing we heard was that your wife had a full time job.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I was just saying, you know, she has a full time job, and I mean it's a great job. She loves it. So she doesn't have any time to really help me with the whole business side of professional
Right.
fishing. So it does get tricky to try to balance the business side of professional fishing, and then also staying on the water as much as you need to be on the water, and then be a fully engaged dad and husband. It's kind of a lot to juggle for sure.
now,
Right.
when you went to college at Kentucky, Brandon, you actually got your degree in landscaping.
Yeah, landscape architecture
Yeah,
was what
and
I was.
you actually had a landscaping business for a while you were actually a professional bass angler as well. Do you still have that business, or does other people run it, or don't you have it anymore?
Well, actually, I started it with my brother, and I ran it like full time for about 2.5 years, and then when I just got super busy with pro fishing, I just kind of passed it off to him, and then he's been running it ever since. And I mean, it's a very successful landscape company in Knoxville,
That's awesome.
and yeah, Jordan's done a great job with it for sure.
Good deal.
Yeah. So, let's see. With what do you think? Because you're one of the only a couple people that I know that has this motor on their boats. What is it about those Suzuki motors that set them apart from any other motors that you have been able to use?
Yeah, I grew up running a Yamaha, and then my first year on tour, I ran a Mercury, and ever since then, which I guess my 2013 season was my first year with Suzuki. I've just ran a Suzuki, and I can tell you they're the most dependable outboard motors that you'll ever run. I mean, they're an absolute workhorse. Saltwater guides are putting over 10,000 hours on their motors, and I mean, if you think about that in bass fishing uh, terms, as far as the number of hours we put on a motor every year, that would be like a lifetime for a
Right.
fisherman. And yeah, they just build one heck of a motor, man. It's just
Well, they're
you know,
starting to take over that salt water because it used to just where all you seen was that Yamaha, but now you're starting to see more Suzuki's out there. I mean, if it's not more, if it's not as equal to Yamaha, like how many's out there, there's more Suzuki's I've seen out there, especially in the saltwater industry.
yeah, they're absolutely huge in saltwater, and they're actually really big in the pontoon market too. If you look at
Right.
just the pontoons,
Yeah.
just out and about, more times than not, they have a Suzuki on them, and so it's just kind of it's just been a slow grind as far as getting bass fishermen on board. Bass fishermen are just they're just born and raised with either a Mercury or a Yamaha, and it's just kind of hard to just get people to make that switch. But as soon as they make that switch, man, they're just like, man, I should have
Yeah.
done that years ago.
Right.
It's yeah, I love mine, man. They're awesome. I can't say enough good things about them, and they're super fuel efficient too. Quiet. I mean, when you crank my motor, I mean, it sounds like you're cranking like a 25 horsepower or something. Super quiet.
So, how can you leave the fishing industry better than when it was when you started?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I would just say the way you leave it.
Ah.
He'll be back in a second.
He'll be back here.
There
Here
he
he
is.
comes.
Hang on a second, my phone's about to die.
Oh, oh.
I got 1%. Hang on. 1%. All right, I'm charging now. We're having some technical difficulties with the cell phone. But yeah, I would say the way that you leave it better. Yeah. Um, hang on a second. I'm gonna have to go to another room. These dang cell phones' batteries just like die like crazy. Oh man. All right. Yeah, the way that I leave the bass fishing world better than when I started is just trying to treat everybody with respect on and off the water, and just having fun every day out there, and just really just try to just try to make an impact on people's lives, that you see, there at the ramp, at the weigh-ins,
Right.
just try to speak to everybody out there, and it's just simple little things go a long way. Like there was a dad and a son that came up to me at Grand Lake. I was actually at a tackle shop at Grand Lake, and they came in there and they said that they met me like I think my rookie year, maybe. So it was like 13 years ago, 12,
Wow.
13 years ago. And I reckon I gave him a hat and maybe like a couple of baits or something. Something just like really
Yeah.
small. But they told me that like made a huge impact on his life, and I was like, really? I was like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying like, small things like that. Whether you're a fisherman or whether you work at a grocery store, or it doesn't matter what job that you have, just like, just treating people with kindness, and just like, reaching out to people and just doing small little things go a long
Right.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because to me, like I've gone to like NFL, NHL, MLB games, and being in the fishing industry and stuff with the media. And one thing that I really love about the fishing industry, and especially coming and doing stuff with y'all, is how accessible that just the regular viewers have to be able just to talk to you. And I've been to where events to where like the other athletes at different whatever baseball,
Yeah,
football, that yeah, they may come over and sign autographs or anything like that, but when the anglers are like they want to talk, they'll talk to people. And so, and I definitely can see like how when you said it made a big difference in that kid's life, I can definitely see, because y'all do take that time to be able to talk to them, and even just giving them a bait or a hat or whatever, like you said, that's something you may not have remembered that you even done it, but to
yeah,
him, that's going to be something that like he's going to tell his kids, his grandkids, and stuff like that. Especially when he sees you on TV, he's like, "Hey, I met him. I got a hat or whatever from him."
yeah,
So I can definitely see, and I mean, and I love that. Just because
yeah,
every angler that I mean that I've talked to, that I mean, especially if they see a little kid, I mean, they'll stop what they're doing. They'll talk to the little kid. I mean, because what does it hurt to take 5 minutes out of your life just to say hey to a kid?
And see,
yeah,
I really think that's what kind of separates professional bass fishing from all the other professional sports out there is the accessibility that BASS gives the fans to the anglers. Because there's not another professional sport out there that's actually going to be as accessible, like Colin says, accessible to the fans, to for the fans just to be able to come up and talk to you at weigh-ins, when you come off the water at the boat ramps. And for the most part, all of the professional anglers on the Bassmaster Elite series, they are so genuine when it comes to talking to people. They will stop what they're doing in a heartbeat. And like you said, Brandon, that you never know, when you talk to somebody
Mhm.
like you did 13 years ago, but the impact you are making on a young angler's
Yeah.
life, who knows, that might be a starting point for that angler one day to be on the stage where you are, just
Yeah.
because of the interaction that you had with him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's no doubt. I mean, I can remember, meeting Rick Clunn at a classic years ago, and just talking to him, as a high school kid, and we went to a Bassmaster University, and got to meet Iaconelli and Shaw Grigsby, and I'm pretty sure I was in high school then too. Just moments like that, yeah, it's just crazy, like how you can watch these anglers on TV and look up to them, and just kind of, it's like they're your heroes, and then you can just go up and beat them and just like have a
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Now, what was it like when to get into your first elite tournament, and then you see Iaconelli or you see KVD and stuff, the guys that you see that you looked up to? How did that make you feel? Like, I mean, were you? I mean, to me, I would be just like shell shocked. Like, I can't believe I'm sharing a body of water with these guys.
Like what, a little bit to elaborate on what Colin's saying. We're going back to like your first elite event ever. What were you a little bit starstruck with the guys that are idling around you waiting for takeoff, or was it just business? Or how long did it take you to get over that starstruck your first year?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of both. I mean, it was definitely starstruck, but at the same time, still pretty focused as well. Um, it was kind of interesting. That first event was on the St. Johns River, and back then there was like eelgrass everywhere, and it was just like tons of spawning habitat, and that's pretty much what most of the tournaments were won doing years ago, was just sight fishing. There on the St. John's.
Right.
Now, I mean, obviously, I guess Corey Johnson won this last on sight fishing, but it's not as dominant as it used to be. It used to be like you had to go sight fishing.
Right.
Now,
And
years ago,
so,
did you ever think Okeechobee was going to be won with forward facing sonar?
yeah, that was
Crazy
pretty
to me.
crazy. But yeah, just going back to what I was saying was, I found a lot of spawners like in practice, and I felt really good about that tournament. Like my first elite event, I was like, man, like I've got like 24 pounds marked on the beds, and they're ready to eat,
Right.
and so I elected to go to Crescent Lake, which is actually like the less popular lake. George Lake at the time was like the most popular, or I guess it'd be Lake George, but Crescent was not as talked about as much. And so I went to Crescent. I had 24 pounds of fish marked on the bed, and literally like the first fish I tried to go to, I'm pretty sure Keith Combs is on. The second one was like Brett Myers. Another one, and literally like I went to like my fifth good fish, and Tommy Biffle was sight fishing one, and I was just thinking like I've watched Tommy Biffle my whole life, and I never even knew that guy sight fished. And literally my 24 pounds of bass were caught within like the first probably 10-15 minutes of the day. And I was like, holy cow. I was like, this is way different than fishing a Bassmaster Open.
Right.
Like this is crazy.
Right.
It was pretty eye opening. It basically, my whole entire practice was pretty much a wash by about a couple hours into the day. All the fish I had found were caught. It was, it
Right.
was
So we'll have one more question. I'll ask one more question that Norman's going to, because we don't want to hold you too much longer, brother. But here's a question from one of the viewers. It says, uh, with like Bill Dance and Jimmy Houston and Roland Martin, uh, was any of those one of your influences to get started into a fishing career?
Yeah, well, they left out Rick Clunn. I would say Rick Clunn was like my childhood hero.
Right.
Um, I would say, I mean, yeah, I looked up to all those guys. Don't get me wrong. I watched Bill Dance on TV. I thought his bloopers were hilarious. Jimmy Houston's laugh and just every time he caught one
Yeah.
on a spinnerbait. A lot of childhood memories of watching his show. I remember Roland Martin. He was on his show. He was waiting somewhere. It might have been Stick Marsh or something, and he hooked like a 13-pounder. And got it all the way, and he almost lipped it, and it like got out of his hand. I don't know if y'all seen that clip or not, but yeah, I mean, I watched all those guys. Their shows were great. But yeah, I would say the one that we really, my brother and I, we just really were drawn to was Rick Klein, and just the way that he fished and just the way he operated. It was just he's just a neat guy, man. And me getting to know him now. Obviously, I fished with him, for many years on the Elite Series. And,
Right.
I can say that he's a friend of mine. And it's just so cool that he was able to compete in his 500.
500, yeah.
And, this is his 50th
50th,
year.
yeah.
And it's unbelievable.
Do you see yourself fishing that long?
But hey, buddy, I think my little boy wants to join the podcast.
That's fine.
Great dinner.
Hey.
David, say hey.
Hey.
Say hey, Colin. Hey, Norman.
Hey, buddy.
This is Davis. He's my best fishing buddy.
Oh, Davis.
I think his shirt even says "Daddy's fishing."
That is fishing, buddy. That is awesome. So with that, Norman, let's go on and let's ask the final question.
Okay, buddy.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and ask this final question. We actually asked you the same question there, Brandon, there immediately at the Classic. But if you were to have one person on your boat, this person could be passed away or still with us for you to fish with for the day, who would that person be and why would you want to fish with them for the day?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I said.
I think you actually said Rick Klein.
Yeah, you said Rick Klein at the
yeah, I figured that's what I said. But yeah, I mean, definitely Rick Klein. But somebody else would be Jay Ellis. I've always looked up to Jay Ellis, and I don't know if it was just the timing of his Classic win, but it might have been when we were just really starting to get super serious about fishing. Jay Ellis won that Classic on Lay Lake.
Yeah.
And, caught that really big one when that pontoon boat drove right up the bank. And he said it's going to take an act of God for me to catch one now. And he throws in there and catches that giant. And just how Jay, Jay's such a good Christian guy, and I would love to just spend the day with him on the water. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah. So with that being said, we don't want to hold you up too much longer because we know how important that family time is, and if you're ever down here in the Chattanooga area and on Chickamauga or Nickajack or Watts Bar or Guntersville area, give us a holler, and would like to be able to at least go grab a bite to eat with you or whatever. So
yeah, I appreciate that, guys, and I appreciate y'all having me on. It was a good time getting to hang out with you guys for an hour.
Yes, sir.
Same with us, man. We really enjoyed talking to you, and it's always fun when you get a chance to talk fishing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So guys, real quick, Brendan, can you tell everybody where they can see you on social media?
Yeah, just on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It's just Brandon Card Fishing. I do have a YouTube channel, but I'm not very active on there. But definitely, I try to post nearly every day on Instagram and Facebook, Twitter. So tell them to follow me there, and
Uh,
I appreciate it.
yeah,
Awesome.
so I expect we got over 1,100 people watching right now, Brandon. So I expect to get a phone call from you saying I got 1,100 more followers. So,
Man, that would be awesome.
so,
That would be incredible.
but but guys, thank you for watching, and Brandon, thank you again for coming on,
Take
brother,
care. Thanks, man.
and hopefully Norman and I can. We're gonna head down to when y'all go to Lay Lake, and hopefully be able to run into you down there too. So, but other than that, guys, thank you for watching again. Hope you live the passion, and God bless.
Thanks. God bless.
Get him.